Hi VC, hi YouTube, it's Rob here with another video, and this video is going to be odds and sods, stuff that's been lying around in my collection for a few months that I've not got around to showing, and a few bits and pieces that I've picked up from Amazon since Christmas. The record shops are closed. We're in our third lockdown, so better get cracking. So in the vinyl tag there was a question, show a box set, and there's been a box set I've been after for a couple of months. So after Christmas I decided to pick up this box set. Curtis Mayfield, Keep On Keeping On, the studio albums between 1970 and 1974. So I've been checking this out on Amazon and it was £60, but then when I came to buy it, it was only £54. So these albums work out £13.50 each, so pretty good value. So my backstory with Curtis Mayfield is when the Jam split in '82, part of the single package was their version of Move On Up by Curtis Mayfield. And I'd not heard of Curtis Mayfield back in '82. I was like 17. And it wasn't until sort of the late 80s that I picked up a CD and realised, you know, what a great artist he is. Picked up a couple of his albums, sort of late 80s and early 90s albums, but I didn't have any of his classic albums. So this box set has got 4 classics, so I'm going to go through them. The first one is Curtis from 1970. So they're all gatefold sleeves as well. Really nice image of Curtis there. And they're all in polyline sleeves, and that's the label that they're all on. So this album's got Move On Up on it, and Miss Black America and The Makings of You. They were 3 songs I was really aware of. So they're really nice packages, these. The next album is from 1971, and I picked this box set. It came on, I think it came on Thursday, and spent all weekend spinning these albums, and I did post a few images on Instagram. And this album, people were commenting as Curtis's best album, Roots from 1971, and this comes with a fun 1971-72 calendar, and there's the back. Well, this one's certainly pretty funky. Then we go to 1973 and the album Back to the World. And Back to the World's what the soldiers coming back from Vietnam said. And this one's got the lyrics with it. And this album's a little bit more sort of orchestrated. And then the final album is Sweet Exorcist from 1974. And this one's got the lyrics with it as well. But the beauty of having these albums is sort of the deep cuts, the tracks that I wasn't aware of, because don't forget, sort of early 80s, if you got into an artist like Curtis Mayfield, you had to sort of search out for his records, which in the UK, Curtis Mayfield records, you know, they're not hanging around. We didn't have the access to Spotify and YouTube, etc. So, you know, it was quite difficult to get into new artists unless you had a friend who had a really good record collection. So yeah, 4 really good albums by Curtis Mayfield. He's an artist that I love his voice. He's got such a soothing voice, and his backing band so solid. People on the VC, I know John Downing, the 6-inch pianist, is a big fan of Curtis Mayfield. And you know, there's plenty of people in America who are fans, but you don't see his records shown that much on the VC. So really pleased to sort of put the spotlight on Curtis Mayfield. Right, the next album I'm going to show is this one, David Crosby, If Only I Could Remember My Name. And this album from 1971. This is a gatefold as well. And there's a whole host of musicians involved in the making of this album. His ex-girlfriend Joni Mitchell, Grace Slick, Jerry Garcia, Graham Nash, to name a few. So there's David on the back. So from 1971, so it's, you know, it's 50 years old. And 2 weeks ago, I didn't really know much about this album, if anything at all. In my last video, I spoke about Rachel's live streams, and I went on early last week, and they were playing. Sometimes they play music, and they were playing just random music, and they started to play Cowboy Movie by David Crosby. I'd never heard it before, and I just fell in love with it straight away. I believe it was Vinyl Richie who asked for it, so thanks, Pat. So after the stream, I went on Apple Music and listened to the whole album, and very quickly decided that I wanted it in my collection. So I went on Amazon, and to my surprise, 180 gram version for £15. So I ordered it straight away, and it came with the Curtis Mayfield records. So this one's in a nice polyline sleeve as well, on Atlantic. There's a real epic song called Laughing on here, and the whole album, I've been streaming it while I've been working, sort of heavy rotation at home as well, and if I enjoy an album as much as this album this year, then I'll be very happy. There's a documentary on David Crosby on Sky Arts at the moment, so I've been watching that. Larger than life figure, touring in 2017. So this documentary sort of highlights his life with the Byrds, how he got kicked out, and the music he produced with Crosby, Stills and Nash. People are saying don't check out any of his other albums. If you want one David Crosby album, pick this one up. But I'll check out his other albums. Controversial figure. He freely admits that he can't understand how he's still alive. A lot of his contemporaries died young. He's not got many friends. He's got plenty of enemies. But I found him strangely engaging. Really pleased to add this to the collection. David Crosby, and If Only I Could Remember My Name. Right, the next album I'm going to show is by a band whose albums are being reissued pretty recently, and it's Craftwork. So, Computer World by Craftwork. I think this album came out in 1981. So in 81/82, that was when Craftwork got to number one with The Model, but The Model isn't on this album, unfortunately. You get a really nice booklet with it, telling us all about the German Beatles. So it's really striking imagery. I do have quite a few Craftwork albums in my collection, but these reissues are really well done, and I'm hoping that I'll pick up some more in the coming year. So I got this from a local record shop that's opened in a place called Upper Mill, which is a small village about 2 miles from me. And opening a record shop during these COVID times, is hugely challenging. So I've been going over there, picking stuff up whenever I can. So Craftwork and Computer World. The next album I'm going to show, really pleased to find this one. It's Beginning to and Back Again by Wire. So this album is from 1989. And I don't have any Wire albums, surprisingly. It's got a nice label with it. So when I saw this in the record shop for £12, an OG, you don't see Wire albums knocking around. That's probably one of the reasons that they're not in my collection, really. And I've never really been a huge fan, and that's probably been sort of laziness on my part, really. And they're a band that, after listening to this album, I know the sort of influences, formed in '76, and they've done about 18 albums. So I listened to this totally blind, and I enjoyed it. Sort of a little bit of a sort of Joy Division, New Order feel about it, electronic. But I read up about this album, and it's not really sort of well thought of by Wire fans. It's a bit of a mishmash of a couple of previous albums, but I really like it and I recommend it. It's Beginning to and Back Again by Wire. Right, the next album I'm going to show is an album that I've had on CD since 2011. This CD has been played a hell of a lot, and it's Build a Rocket Ship by Elbow. So Elbow, the Manchester band, they say Manchester, they're actually from Bury, which is about 8 miles outside Manchester. So as I said, this came out in 2011. It plays on 45, which I'm not a huge fan of. It's a double album. I'll show you the inner sleeve. It's got Elbow on it there, and nice image on the label there. So this came out after Seldom Seen Kid, which was the 4th album by Elbow, and that album sort of catapulted them. They made a really memorable appearance at Glastonbury, and the career really sort of took off after that. And I just love Elbow. Their albums have all been reissued recently, so you're left sort of, I've got all these CDs. Do I invest in the albums? I think I'm going to invest in most of the albums throughout the year, and this has always been a favourite of mine. The opening track, Birds, really builds. Lippy Kids, another great song. Neat Little Rose, and the final track, Dear Friends, is one of my favourite closing tracks on any album. So yeah, please have this in the collection. Build a Rocket Ship by Elbow. A couple more to go, and I found this album in one of my favourite record shops in New Mills, which is in Derbyshire. It's this album, George Best Revisited by The Wedding Present. So originally this came out in 1987, George Best, and there's The Wedding Present. There's an image of George, and this copy is pretty beat up because it's been played so much. This nearly made my top 10 albums of the 80s, such a favourite of mine. So, but I wasn't aware that this had been released in 2017. I picked it up still sealed. And what this is, the 20th anniversary of George Best in 2007. So they did a tour where they just played George Best, and sort of playing that album was so fresh with them that they actually went into the studio and played a live set, and that's what this is. And I really enjoy this album. I've been playing it a lot, and I'm really glad that I picked it up. There's an image of George on the label as well. So for those of you in America maybe, or in Europe, George Best, for me, is just, the greatest footballer there's ever been. If you watch footage of George Best, the pitches he used to play on, and the abuse he used to get off players, tackles, knee high, etc. He was a flawed genius. I can't remember when he died, a number of years ago. Also came with a free CD. So yeah, really pleased to have this in my collection. If you ever see this, I really recommend it. George Best revisited by The Wedding Present. And finally, I'm going to show this album, Palace, Life After. So this came out in 2019, and when it was released, I didn't pick it up because it's very similar to this album, So Long Forever. And this is Palace's debut album from 2016. And I went to see Palace with my son in 2017. I really enjoyed them. So when this came out, it's a real slow burner, and you need to sort of invest time into it. I'll show nothing special, just the lyrics there, and there's a label with Palace on. So, Palace from London, and they write melodic songs, nothing too groundbreaking, but when I'm in the mood for that sort of indie melodic, the bands like, if you know Embrace or Travis, or you get the feel, Snow Patrol maybe, and that sort of music gets a little bit of a bad press, and it very rarely gets shown on the VC. But I just find something really appealing about Palace. Sort of the songs are about, the singer's parents went through a divorce, so how it affected him, sort of death of friends, relationship breakdowns, all the sort of stuff that I'm kind of a bit of an expert on. So yeah, I find something really warm about listening to Palace. There's a sort of band that at the end of a festival, they'd probably be playing on one of the smaller stages, and as you're sort of coming down from a high, they'd be the perfect sort of band to listen to. So yeah, I really recommend checking out Palace. So that's it. Thanks for watching my video. If you're a new subscriber, if you're a regular subscriber, thanks for hanging in there. If you've got any comments about what I showed, I'd love to hear from you. I just want to add something at the end of the video. I said that we're into our third lockdown in the UK, and it's tough. It is tough. The weather on the other lockdowns. I mean, I've worked all the way through COVID. I know a lot of people have been furloughed, my daughter included. But it's difficult when you've got kids who don't live with you, and you can't go and see them because they live in Sheffield. So I've hardly seen my son over the last couple of months, and that's difficult. So especially in the winter, where you just sort of get up, go to work, and come back, and it's not easy. And also another thing that I do struggle with, I don't know how you feel about sort of wearing a mask, because I understand the importance of wearing a mask. I do think you should wear, I don't think you should be wearing the same mask now that you wore months ago, but that's another debate. But wearing a mask just sort of depersonalises us, I think. And when you go around the supermarket and you're wearing a mask, or just whenever you do have to wear one, I have to wear one when I'm working. The expressions that we use, using a smile, it just works on so many different levels. And with a mask on, I find that pretty difficult. And I just wanted to share something with you, that I was in the supermarket yesterday, and there was a guy with his son, I take it was his son, in a wheelchair. And I think his son had cerebral palsy. And I was, so I sort of glanced over, and as I was walking past, I was kind of give the lad sort of I was smiling at him really, but because I had a mask on, it just looked like I was staring at him. And when I got in the car afterwards, I just thought, he thought I was sort of staring at him, and he must, be used to people just sort of looking at him. Whereas I wasn't. I was, giving him a warm sort of smile. And because I had a mask on, he didn't see that. And it just depersonalizes us. So I just thought I'd share my feelings about wearing a mask. You know, I understand the importance of it, but it's becoming sort of something that we're becoming too regular. You know, it's becoming the norm to wear a mask. You know, and I envisage having to wear a mask all year. You know, and I don't know about you, but that doesn't appeal to me at all. So, yeah, a few thoughts about COVID and how it's affecting me. I don't know about yourselves, but I just thought I'd share it on my video. So once again, thanks for watching my video, and bye for now.